Hi, I'm Edna David, and my video is going to be based on the topic of Ebola. And yes, I know it's a pretty yucky topic, and for that I apologize in advance. But first, let's talk about the meaning of Ebola. What is it? The Ebola hemorrhagic fever, commonly known as the Ebola virus, is a very strange and deadly disease that was discovered in some regions of Africa, mainly in Rwanda, Congo, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, etc. According to the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, this disease is caused by an infection with a virus that is from the family of Fibaridae, which can cause severe hemorrhagic fever in humans and non-humans. Ebola was firstly discovered in 1976 near a black river in Rwanda, which was known as the Ebola River. This disease was named after the river, ironically. During this time, there was a rare epidemic in the village, and a couple of nuns were sent there to treat the patients. But however, they noticed that the disease was widespread among pregnant women who went to the clinic for treatment. They all had the same symptoms and died mysteriously. In 2014, the Ebola virus spread rapidly in these regions of Africa. And in the same year, approximately 2,600 cases of the EVD virus and 1,400 deaths were reported. This disease was spread for several reasons. First, the West African countries had undergone years of civil war and unrest, which damaged an already fragile healthcare infrastructure and reduced our healthcare workforce. And this limited the country's ability to rapidly respond to growing epidemic. The second reason is that the EVD is a hemorrhagic fever transmissible in the absence of rigorous infection prevention in patients. The healthcare organization found risk of contracting the EVD virus during this epidemic to be 21 to 32 times higher among healthcare workers than among non-healthcare workers. This caused some clinics and hospitals to close down and shortage of healthcare workers. And now here's the million-dollar question. How is the Ebola virus transmitted? Well, this virus is transmitted among humans through close and direct physical contact with infected bodily fluids, the most infectious being blood, feces, and vomit. And this nasty virus is being detected in breast milk, urine, and semen. In a convalescent male, the virus can persist in semen for at least 70 days. Saliva and tears may also carry some risk. In studies of saliva, the virus was found most frequently in patients at a severe stage of illness. This virus can also be transmitted indirectly by bodily contact with previously contaminated surfaces and objects. The risk of transmission from these surfaces is low and can be reduced even further by appropriately cleaning and disinfection procedure. And also, this disease is not an airborne disease. Now, here are some Ebola symptoms to look out for. These symptoms include fever, severe headache, muscle pain, weakness, fatigue, diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and unexplained hemorrhagic bleeding or bruising. These symptoms may appear anywhere from 2 to 21 days after exposure to Ebola, but the average is 8 to 10 days. When a person gets in contact with the Ebola patient, they are quarantined for the length of 21 days, and within this time, if they show no symptoms of the virus, they are then checked by a medical professional to be sure that the disease is not in their bloodstream. This graph shows the amount of suspected, probable, and confirmed cases of the virus in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone from March 25th of 2014 to February of 2016. According to the graph, Guinea had the highest amount of cases with 2,000 in August of 2014, and in February of 2016 they went up to 14,000 cases. Liberia was in the middle with the amount of 2,000 cases in September of 2014 and 10,000 cases in February of 2016. The last is Guinea with the amount of 1,000 cases in November 2014 and 4,000 cases in November of 2016. These three graphs show the amount of suspected death in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. And this is really hard to say, but a lot of people lost their families and loved ones during this terrible time. The World Health Organization reported the amount of death in Guinea was 3,804. Liberia, on the other hand, had 10,675 amount of death, and Sierra Leone had 14,124 amount of death.
Now to the growing Ebola crisis. While doctors here have just had some success treating the deadly disease, the virus does continue to march relentlessly across parts of Africa. Our chief health and medical editor, Dr. Richard Besser, has made a return trip to the hot zone in Liberia to see what it will take to stop this deadly outbreak. And good morning to you, Dr. Besser.
Lara, there have been outbreaks of Ebola for nearly 40 years, but none has caused the devastation they're seeing in this one. I went to the country's largest hospital to see the heroic efforts underway to save lives.
This morning, a look inside the hot zone, a makeshift Ebola clinic at the epicenter of a global health emergency.
It used to be used for treating people with cholera, and now it's Ebola.
Opened just 9 days ago, it's now at full capacity. Nearly 60 Ebola patients, many without beds to sleep on.
Highly contagious, highly infectious, very dangerous.
We suit up in full protective gear and go inside a triage unit, a highly infectious area where suspected Ebola cases first arrive.
They're assessed to see could they have Ebola, and if they are, they're put into isolation.
Just outside the scene is apocalyptic, a courtyard where Ebola patients sit and wait. Some are confirmed cases, others just waiting to be tested.
This is one of the most important places in the Ebola treatment unit. It's where the healthcare workers, when they come out, get sprayed down and they take off their protective gear.
For healthcare workers here, there are many challenges. They desperately need more resources, more beds, and more protective gear.
Are you worried being in the hospital, taking care of Ebola patients?
Indeed, we are worried. But we got to come, because if we all sit back, there will be no one to care for our brothers and sisters.
It has been torrentially raining here in Liberia, which is adding to that feeling of global isolation. Many airlines have canceled their flights in and out of the country because of the fear of Ebola. While it was easy to get in here to report on this story, it may be difficult getting out.
According to Time magazine, the Ebola virus installed a lot of fears in the hearts and minds of people. An office building in Burkesville, Ohio closed, and there were almost 1,000 people at work over the fear that an employee might have been exposed to the disease. Another high school in Oregon canceled a visit from 9 students in Africa, even though none of them were from countries that was exposed to this disease. There are, however, documented cases of people misunderstanding and fearing infectious disease going back into history, and now with Ebola being the most recent ones. A lot of Africans still cannot wrap their mind around this disease and how it came about, and the fact that it killed a lot of their loved ones.